Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining us. So you're going to talk to me a bit for Woking and Borough Libraries about yourself and your writing.
Lovely. Thank you very much for having me.
That's okay. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Yes, in my busy lockdown schedule.
Well, with all the animals you've got.
I know that's true, actually. I am quite busy. I shouldn't make out. Yeah, no, it's lovely to be here anyway.
Thank you. So can you just tell our watchers a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing?
Yeah, of course. So Amanda Jennings, and I write psychological thrillers now. I think they probably always were psychological thrillers. They've just got probably a little bit darker, I think, as they've gone on, or maybe they haven't. Maybe I've just got darker, or I don't know, something has gone on. But I've written. My 5th book will be out in July, and I'm currently writing my 6th. I got into writing. How did I get into writing? I was working at the BBC as a researcher. This is back in my early 20s, and I was pregnant or I had just had my first daughter, and I was missing her hugely. And I'd also just sort of coincidentally written a sitcom script for a BBC writing room, completely separate from my job, but it's the writer's room then. It was back in the day, it was BBC Talent, and I'd written a sitcom script. And the sitcom script had been shortlisted down from like a couple of thousand down to the last 8. And one of my sort of shortlisting perks, if you like, was to go and meet Robert Mayhew. Oh gosh, I've forgotten. Paul Mayhew Archer. I'm so sorry. Paul Mayhew Archer, who writes The Vicar of Diddley. That's a massive block. He was amazing and just basically was very encouraging and said, if you were in America right now, we would be sort of co-opting you onto a group of writers and you would have a job, but unfortunately we're not. So keep doing what you're doing, write some stuff, and we'll always read it. And I went away and I just sort of had this horrible fear that I loved writing, but I had written every single one of my jokes had gone into that one pilot. So I didn't have any jokes. But I did, when I basically was missing my daughter and the ley lines crossed, and I decided to, when my husband was posted over to America for a year, and I decided to take the opportunity to have that time to sit down and write a book. And was able to, when we go home, sort of say to him, I really want to be at home with my daughter, but that laundry pile is not looking particularly attractive. Would it be all right if I carried on writing? So I carried on writing, but it took me an awful long time to get published. I have a lot of rejection. I'm one of those authors. I don't have a starry story. I have a lot of rejections and a lot of carrying on. And
you have a hard work story.
A lot of hard work, yeah. And then book number 3, where my agent rang up and said, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "I am." So yeah, it took me, I think I signed with my agent in 2007, and I'd been writing for a few years before that, and then we finally published in 2012. That was a long time.
Awesome. So you've got 5 books out at the moment, or your
5th one coming out in July, so it's out being read by reviewers at the moment.
So can you tell us anything about The Storm, which, as you said, is due out in July? Have you got any little tidbits?
I have. So basically, this is my 3rd one that's set in Cornwall. So I've had 2 before that, In Her Wake, and my last one, The Cliff House. And my mother's family is from Cornwall, so I really, that's an area of the country that I'm drawn to. I hope one day I'll live there. It's somewhere definitely where my heart lies. And this one is set in a fishing community in Newlyn, or part set in a fishing community in the 90s. And the other half of the book, or the bulk of the book, is set in present day. And you've got this marriage, which is obviously an unbalanced marriage. It's coercive control is involved. It's a very, on the surface, it looks perfect, like so many things. Beautiful house, handsome husband, beautiful wife, but shut the doors and it all gets very dark. I think I was really interested to answer the question. Often when you have relationships that involve domestic abuse, and this isn't physical abuse, it's sort of emotional, it's control. You hear people say, but I don't understand why he or she didn't leave. Why didn't she leave? Why didn't he leave? And I was really fascinated by that question. I wanted to answer the why didn't she leave question, but within the construct of a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
So actually there is a reason why she doesn't leave. And over the course of the book and sort of an unravelling of the historical story, you hopefully find the answers to that.
Well, it sounds amazing. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yes, yeah.
My next question was going to be, you've written 3 books about Cornwall. What's drawn
Yeah.
you to Cornwall? And you've just answered that.
Yeah, well, it's one of those places that, I think, earlier on we were talking about how long it took me to get published. And actually I'd written the first book that I had published was my 3rd stab at writing a book. My 3rd book, In Her Wake, is actually the book that got me my agent, but we couldn't find a home for it, and that was set in Cornwall, or is set in Cornwall in St Ives, and it has all the passion of a first novel. My actual first novel was dreadful. No one will ever see it. It was just an exercise in beginning, middle and end and 80,000 words, and I could do it, but it's not, it's a practice run really.
Yeah.
But In Her Wake was, it started out very differently. I rewrote it, but it had all that passion for Cornwall that I loved. The legends and the rugged scenery, the sort of the weather that plays with your emotions and stuff. And I just had... It's just somewhere where I just feel happy when I'm writing about it. I feel happy when I'm researching. I surround myself with pictures of Cornwall when I'm writing, and it's somewhere that I feel, very comfortable and at home at. So I don't know. I mean, I have to say, the one that I'm writing now, so book 6, I've actually taken away from the sea. I've now set this on Bodmin Moor, because I have written now 3 books full of crashing waves and salt in the air and the sound of the beach underneath your feet, and I think it was time for a change. But I've kept it in Cornwall, but with a sort of, obviously the moors versus the coast, is a very different feel. So
it's got a lot more imagery going on. It's got a different feel to it than just being by the coast. So
absolutely. And very, very easy, I think. I've only just started this. I'm 25,000 words in, but it's very easy to create a sort of dark and brooding atmosphere when you've got a moors setting. It sort of comes with the territory. So so that's been quite nice as well. Having that sort of scenery to set up my book for me is quite nice.
I think the word is psychotropic.
Oh yes, it's not something I would use in everyday language, but
well, you are talking to a librarian.
I am, and as an author I should be able to say, yes, psychotropic, that's exactly the word I say. But certainly, all the other words, evocative and atmospheric, and it all goes hand in hand. So I think for me at least, I mean, there will be a day where I move away from Cornwall, but at the moment it's still rich and inspirational. So
there's a lot to write about in Cornwall, isn't there? It's
definitely. I'm taking a different decade each time. So the last decade was the 80s in the Cliff House, and as I said, and then the Storm is the 90s, and this one I've actually come up into the millennium, to the turn of the millennium. So
that sounds brilliant. It'd be interesting to see how all the lore and the stories and your influence to that changes with the whole technological boom.
Definitely.
That would be...
Yeah, you're very right. And actually that was part of the Cliff House, which was set in the 80s. That was part of it, really, was the fact that I was able to draw on that nostalgic feel that so many of us have of those holidays, not necessarily in Cornwall, in any British holiday resort, where you those of us who are of a certain age, who were children or teens in the 80s, pre-mobile phones, lots of freedom, very distinct music and sweets, and everything was quite different then. And I think in the 90s we saw a big change, but it does feel it was lovely to write back in the with the 80s as your backdrop. It was fun.
It sounds wonderful. So one of the other things I'd like to touch on is that you're a judge for the Henley Youth Festival writing competition.
That's right, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that and how you got involved, and how our young writers for next year can get involved? Because of course the festival is based in March, isn't it?
Yes, do. That's a brilliant thing to talk about. So I was actually asked by Henley local, who was involved in the competition, in the Henley Youth Festival writing competition, just before my first book, Sworn Secret, came out in 2012. And I've actually been lucky enough to be a judge every year since. So Sarah Bell, who helps organise it, she'll sort out the long list. And then I have this amazing morning every early March, where I get to go and sit for a couple of hours, and we have coffee and we sit very quietly, and I read through the long list, make a short list, and then select the winners from that. And every year there's a theme, so it can range from all sorts of things. It was sort of oceans this year, which was fantastic, but different age groups, so all the way from littlies all the way through to sort of 16, 17, which is lovely as well, divided into categories, as you would imagine, and the most amazing imaginations and stories. It's a real treat every year. I look forward to it massively on the calendar. So I think if you want to get involved, please do. It's anyone, you don't have to be in fact, you should check, but I think if you are Henley or locals to Henley, but I know we have entries from all over the place locally, so do get involved, and just go to the website, which I probably wouldn't know the name of the website off the top of my head, but
if you just Google Henley, Henley Youth Festival. Oh,
yeah,
it's got a bit of a... Are you still there? Because
I am, yeah.
Okay, we had a bit of a moment there.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
A little bit of a signal moment. Are we back?
Yes, looks like we're back. Looks like we're all good.
Excellent. So yeah, I've, as I said, I judged it for 8 years. I'm hoping that I'm asked again. As I said, it's a highlight of my year, and I really do encourage people. In fact, I encourage children, if you enjoy writing, write whenever you can, and enter any competition you can come along. In fact, since the schools have been shut down, on my Facebook page, I've been putting a prompt up each week for kids if they want to write a story and send it in to me, and I'll give some critiques, all positive. It's not school, as I keep on my Facebook page, like, there's no wrong, there's no spelling mistakes, you're not going to told off, but then a few pointers for them to work on for the next thing. And I think it's really important to encourage children just to write for fun, and not to sort of strict curriculum guidelines, which can, I think, be inhibiting for creativity.
I used to run a writing group at the libraries, where I would do exactly the same. It was just, I'd give them a topic and send them off to write. So yeah, I completely get behind you on that one. It's just getting their imaginations free, isn't it?
Exactly, definitely. And and really enjoying the fact, I love it, you get some of these, especially with the festival entries as well, some amazingly dark stories with the writer. So have I gone again? So to have these amazingly free dark imaginations coming up from some of these children is beautiful. So I love it. It's a real pleasure for me.
Sounds brilliant. So the other project your website says you're involved in is the WOW mentoring project.
WOW mentoring or Womentoring. I think that was an incredible. I haven't been so active on it recently. I don't know whether that's because people haven't been applying to me specifically, or whether the project has calmed, but it was an incredible project set up by a writer called Kerry Hudson to give perhaps from backgrounds that didn't have access to writing retreats and being able to go to festivals, and these things cost money, and I think now in lockdown, funnily enough, there are many resources that you can have access to that maybe don't cost money. But this was a really lovely idea, and is a really lovely idea, that people can apply to you, send a bit of writing, and then you choose who to work with, and then we've worked through, and I've had I think I've worked with 3 people, and 2 of them had publishing contracts, so that's been really amazing. I'm not suggesting that that's down to me, but it's certainly they were talented in the first place, but it definitely helped to sort of get your work looked at and honed, and that does help. So
sounds wonderful. So that's all the questions I've got for now. And it's been very, very lovely to catch up with you, Amanda, and to have this chat.
Oh, thank you.
And so we need to look out for The Storm that's due out in July. And we need to make sure that we're getting the rest of those novels read by everybody else.
Well, I'll send some copies of The Storm to Wokingham Library so that you've got those there if people want to have a read. So
that would be lovely.
Not at all. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Well, thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.